tell you. I want to talk more today about, excuse me, hands. And I realized my last video was not in focus. And that was my Nikon. So this is my cell phone. And so these are the hands I ended up drawing last time. I hope you can see that. I might have to move this. Right. Get some water here while you stare at my hands. So, I kind of walked you through how to do more basic hands based on the skeleton and the bones in the hand as opposed to trying to do a finished hand from the get-go. And I mean, that's kind of, I always want to do a finished hand because at this point I've, done them for so long that I am fairly familiar with them. So it's a little bit harder for me to go back and try to do the basics, but that's really what I want to do for myself, is to go back and reteach myself how to draw these things. But it's really hard for me to see what's on the screen. Hold on one second. There we go. Now it's bright enough I can see it. So with some of the hands like this, I'm kind of breaking it down into more basic shapes. This is almost like if you started with kind of like a cigarette pack and then added some little sausage pieces onto it. And, breaking it down almost in a kind of a mannequin way. If you were an illustrator, you would probably do a lot of hands like that. And my goal is to try and do about 100 hands this month. Although I don't really know what defines this month because I didn't start like on the 1st. So, and I have not numbered all of them yet, but somewhere in this little guy, I have a page full of hands, which would have been smart if I would have bookmarked it. Okay, so here we go. So then I did a bunch of hands, like studies in this book, I believe while I was watching Netflix or something, and most of these are taken out of that big Anatomy for Artists book. And some are just really basic. And then this is like a skeleton. And then some are obviously more detailed. Some I tried to break down, again, basic shapes and shadows. So I did also start, and I have this sketchbook that was supposed to be for a project I was doing with a friend where we would be working on this comic book together, but that hasn't worked out yet. So I finally decided to repurpose it. I had to erase some of the stuff in here and go over it. This page I just completely painted or glued a whole nother sheet of paper on there, but I might need to get better glue because it doesn't seem to be completely holding. I tried to go over it first like with acrylic paint to kind of gesso it, but I don't think with this texture I can really do a whole lot with that, so I may change that. So what I was using for this sketch here that I started, and I'm going to probably do most of my sketches from now on in this. Where did my hands go? So it's not the first time Photoshop has done this to me. While that's loading, maybe I can talk about the Charles Barg book, which is a full drawing course that you can get. You can probably find it on eBay, like super cheap. Not eBay. I just switched over to a different browser. This is called Brave. It's supposed to be less invasive than like chrome is. So, I mean, the first one right there is $22 or best offer, free shipping. I mean, that's possibly in French, I'm not sure. But if we go to shipping lowest first, okay, so I lied. Apparently it's more expensive, which I don't understand why. But the Charles Bargue drawing book is a full drawing course. And, I mean, if you're lucky, if you go to a thrift store or something, you can probably find it rather inexpensive. It's something that even, excuse me, in 2 different schools that I went to, we've used the Charles Bargue drawing guide. So that's why I'm bringing it up for you guys as a potential course. But I just wanted to see, like, let you see really quick. Let me zoom in. So it's 241 pages, I think it said. And, I mean, it goes down really, really basic. Eyes, you know, and the mouth and nose, and then more facial features together as a whole. Ears. And then it also goes down into the feet. And what I will probably be doing today is working with some of the hands in here to show you guys how to break it down to basic shapes. And as you can see, as you go along, it gets more and more in depth. These are more cast drawings, which not everyone has a cast they can draw, but what a lot of students do is, you know, you will take this piece and you will have it like on your drawing board here, and then your blank paper, and you will start with this drawing. I mean, so you could have both of them, or you could start with this one. But basically what your drawing should look like to start is the basic drawing outline here. And some of you might be concerned, well, I can't see it right side up right now, but actually it's better that you don't. I didn't really completely learn this way, but it does help some people to not, you know, to either see things like from an angle, or not from an angle, but not from right side up. Because then you're so focused, your brain is focused on, well, the eye needs to be here, the ear needs to be there, the face, it needs to, you know, you focus too much on the end goal and less on the, like the drafting of the individual features and how they relate to each other, which is what you need to start with. So I'm just showing you more of what's on here. And like I said, most of you are not going to have a cast to draw from, so you would look at, you know, how he starts with, okay, if we divide it in half, and then I would say, so about halfway is where he puts the mouth, and then above that is the nose, and then above that are the eyes, generally speaking. As I've said in a previous video, you should be able to fit one eye between the 2 eyes. And instead of, like, you know, when you're first drawing, when you see something like this, I'm sorry, let me make it a little bit bigger for you. You're going to be tempted to try and do all these little areas here and details, but you should really just break it down to the basic shape before you get into any of that. Especially because, say you're going along through this drawing and you get to a point where you realize, well, maybe you made the face too long. If you've already done a bunch of detail in there, you're going to be really angry when you realize that, you know, the face is too long or something. So you always want to do as basic and simple as you can to start, so you can make sure, you know, you can look at it at this point and go, okay, everything looks like it's where it should be. And then you go in and add detail. I hope that's making sense for you guys. So if you can get your hands on a copy of this book, it might even be at your library. Most libraries are open right now, from what I understand. If you're afraid to use the library, then there's also sources like Hoopla and Libby, which, if you don't know, most libraries are connected with them, and you can use your card number to borrow things online. So you could, either use if you have a regular computer, if you have a laptop, an iPad, etc., or even if the only electronic thing you have is your phone and you want to draw from your phone, you can do that too. So Libby, Hoopla, there's several others out there right now. And your library itself might even allow you to like download PDFs. I actually got the first things I got here, which I think was one of the things I was originally looking for and forgot I was doing that. When I started at NCCC, I know we were required to do 1 or 2 of these as part of our homeworks for our figure drawing classes. Although I'm not seeing the figure that we used, but I'm sure he's in here somewhere. But it's basically like an outline of a figure. We may have even done, I think we might have done that one too. I'm just trying to let you guys know, but you know, I have so far paid about $80,000 to learn. I don't know. This one, okay, yeah, down here. So when you start doing full figures, you're going to start with really basic figures like this. I know, I think this is one of the guys that we did, and maybe that one. It's definitely this one. But the one that we drew, we had to draw it to scale, and it had like the heads. So the average body, I mean, it varies. Generally, I think the accepted ratio is that the average body is about 7 heads high. So ours had like right down the center, there was a line, and then it showed like the head. And then you had to make sure yours was the same amount of heads, and that was how you used it to scale it to the right size. So, I mean, there's a lot of resources in this book if you can get your hands on it. Also, I think I have it in my Google Drive, so I think I may, actually put if I remember to do so, put a link for my version of it in the description of the video. As far as I am aware and can tell, I mean, because I also, we got a free PDF printout of this at Fredonia. I don't believe it is locked under copyright anymore. I could be wrong, but I don't believe so, because I think it's such an old book. But anyway, so I will put that in there, at least until somebody yells at me and tells me not to do it. But honestly, I tried to get a version of it today, and it was supposed to be free to download, and then they tried to charge my card and proceed to not give me the download. So I'm not happy about that. But anyway, are you gonna open? Please and thank you. Okay, so what I wanted to show you guys is when you're starting out, if you have a resource like Photoshop, you can use it. And even if you don't, I mean, this is basic. You can, if you have a print off of something, just some hands, you could even take your hands and put it right on the printer and scan them if you don't have like a good camera or what have you. And then you could take that print off, take either a ruler if you have it, if you don't, any straight edge, any just take the edge of a book, and you can start to see like how do these lines relate, how do they intersect to one another. And you're not just looking for, one of the newbie issues I would say is you kind of start looking for just how things relate to each other in the positive space, which positive space is where there is an object. The negative space would be all this area back here with nothing in it. So what I mean to say is when you're trying to figure out, like especially if something looks wrong, you might think about what this shape looks like on its own. Like if you've already sketched this in and you have this line here, does this part match up with what's on your drawing? If not, then that's a really easy, quick way to be able to say, well, there's something wrong here and I need to be able to back up and fix that. So you're not just looking at, you know, where is this knuckle compared to that knuckle, and, you know, things like that. You're also looking at how do these outside areas interact with one another. And if you have Photoshop, I mean, it makes it easy because you can just drag down from the ruler and figure out where things line up. And especially like with someone like this where you have both the hands, and this is just something I picked up off of Google in a very quick search. So then from there you could figure out where they line up to one another. And and whenever you have a hard time with a specific area, say you do everything else fine, but maybe this area is a troubling area for you, and you can just keep dragging as many of these guidelines out from the ruler as you need and keep working on that specific area, because that will help you in the long run. And let me see, I kind of have it there, but so with some of my reference images, I will break it down to what I need, and you could see like I don't have a whole lot of information in this area, so I don't really need to break it down anymore. But then when I went to this area, you know, more of these inside parts, instead of, you know, having just the fewer lines, I kept adding more lines, and possibly even after I printed it off, I mean, I still could go back and use a ruler and keep drawing parts for areas like probably, you know, the hand of the skeleton there, or the feet, especially since this one is missing a lot of information. I think I did find an actual skeleton, yeah. So then this is one where I superimposed a skeleton over it to help me when I did my version of this piece. This is from Masaccio's Holy Trinity in Italy, and I did a painting based on that. This is a little naughty, but it doesn't show you anything, so I didn't break this down anymore, but what I can talk about, I think you can see the lines. I know I left them a little bit, they're not quite as thick and as noticeable as in the other reference, but you can see I'm basically divide it in half, then divide that in half, and then go from the corners. And then if you want to keep going from there, like, you know, say once you want to get to his face and you're like, that's going to be the hardest part, you know, you can do the corners, and then you can also do half and half, you know, for here, and then keep going. I mean, you can go as far as you need to, which this might be getting too far out of the realm. Maybe you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but okay. So let me go back to what originally I wanted to show you guys, which was basically just, I mean, I feel like it gets boring just staring at me while I'm drawing, but anywho, what I'm using right now are General's, this graphite drawing kit. I've got 2 of them for some reason. I have 2 of these, but not 2 of the charcoal ones, which I needed more of the charcoal. And one of the things I wanted to show you, I think I was working with the F. Okay, so I have an F in here. I think the other one, I don't know where it is. But basically with pencils, or pencil forms of different media, I should say, because I think even the charcoal ones are kind of like this, but I think they just say soft and hard, whereas we learn in drawing school, HB is kind of the medium one, but generally H is hard, B is soft. How B transfers to soft, I have no clue. But, you know, they range from, I'm trying to think, B, 2B, I'm trying to see, 6B, 8B, I think is the softest one here. But it looks like I only have 2H. I don't know. But one of the things I was going to mention is when you're first learning, you're trying to figure out, well, I don't know what the different hardnesses and softnesses are for pencils. When you're drawing, just use a different one each time and make a little note. So I know I did that one in a 2H. This one I am doing with an F pencil. And then, you know, you can even do that when you go on to different media. You know, so down here you could do a pen. But, you know, write down whatever information. Excuse me, rather. I don't know why. I keep losing my voice. So you could, you know, write in general pencil, Kimberly. I don't know who Kimberly is, but if you were doing like Micron pens, you would write Micron 0.01 or whatever you were using. And that's a good way to get to learn how to identify different types of pencils and what the different leads do from the spectrum from the B to H. I'm not even entirely sure where F fits in there, if it's in the middle. I mean, it seems more of a soft, and what soft is basically, it means that it's a softer lead, so it shows up more, if that makes sense. So like this is the H, which means it's a harder pencil. So you have to push that much harder to get the same like darkness as you would with a soft one. The thing with the soft ones you need to watch out for is generally they're going to smear more too. And because I am doing this for you guys, I'm going to go through and do it a little bit darker. But you always want to, when you can, if you can, start off as light as possible and wait until you're more sure that you have something in the right place before you make it darker. Because there is, like I said, nothing like doing a whole lot of work in one area and then realizing that it's not in the right spot when you step back and look at it later. And keep this straight up and down. So one of the tricks you can use if you don't have a ruler or straight edge for any reason, it's going to be hard to show you like this, but if I am drawing like a vertical line, depending on how I have my book, I can cheat and use like, you can't even see it there. If I were left-handed, if I had my pencil here, however you hold it left-handed, you can pull it straight down and just follow. You're leaning your hand up against the edge and letting that guide you. You can also do it, across the top here, which is harder to see because my hand's in the way. And that's basically what I use to get this part right here. And so if I want to figure out if I have this little pinky starting in the right spot, I'm going to look at where it is, over here on my reference. And I know, so what I will do with this, okay, pull that up so it's, because I'm going to match this one to that one as opposed to the other way around, so I want to make sure I have it the same. And this isn't going to be perfect. That's kind of terrible, but I mean, it's better than nothing if that's all you have. I have plenty of rulers, but although whether or not I know where all of them are is a different story. So basically, if I look at this, assuming that everything here is right, then this pinky is up way too high. And then I can also use, on here I have like this line here, which doesn't exist here yet, I think. Oh, yeah, it does. So this line that I have here is the same line that I put on here, which goes across. And you can see that the pinky does, so little base comes up right here. And then it should come out. And you can do this. I'm trying to remember how I did the angles. I think I used the line tool, and then like you can kind of, it's a sick line, but that gives you an idea. You can, you know, do that if you have something like Photoshop. If you don't, you would do that with like a ruler and draw on it, but that helps you make sure you have the right angle there. And I think I do have the angle right. I just need to make it a pequeño. Pequeño. Not bad for a solid eraser. I'm so used to using my kneaded erasers now. I don't trust regular erasers. I mean, this is just a plastic white eraser, but it did a really good job. Never use, and I mean, I will rarely tell you never to use something, but if you are working with a regular pencil, like 2H, you know, fill in the bubble kind of pencil, don't use that crappy pink eraser, because those are usually hard and will ruin, I mean, they're the easiest way to ruin a piece of artwork. Okay, so I know I want it to stop before that line, so I'm going to put it about there, which is about where this knuckle is, which may mean that this might need to come down a little bit more. So I mean, right now I can tell, at least from my details, that something's off, because if I look at this knuckle here, it shouldn't be right next to this knuckle here, but that's kind of how I have it going right now, because this knuckle needs to line up with the tip of that. So that's how, I mean, that's the basics of what you're trying to do when you're learning drawing, is to constantly be thinking about how did these areas relate to other things in your piece. So, I mean, if there were more going on here, I had arms or a face or whatever, I'm also relating how the hand relates to the face and all of that. But that's much further down the road. So, for right now, I'm going to go back into, okay, so this will come in. Out. So basically what I've been doing is focusing on the outside edge of when I'm drawing. So you can do that too, or if that is too much for you to like work with right now, then go back to basics. I mean, you could really just be starting with a all the way down here. Oops. You know, start with something like that and figure out, you know, do you have everything in the right place? And then you can build, you know, off of something that basic. Do what works for you. If this just seems like way too overcomplicated, break it down more, which is what I need to be doing. So I'm actually going to switch over from this And let's start on one of the bar drawings. Sorry, I probably shouldn't be doing that there. It's going to be loud no matter where I do it. If I keep down one of these flat surfaces. So if I go all the way back to the beginning. So this is the first one, so we could start with that. And like I said, the best way to do it is to either have like a printout and just work with it that way. Especially in this day and age, we're working from your computer. It's really easy to fall in the rabbit hole of, ooh, let me check my bank account. Let me see who's on Facebook. And I guess I shouldn't have put my mouse on here because look what I did. Although I might just go over that with like glue on a piece of paper anyway because I don't want to. Okay, so this is the best way to set this up so you can see it. So maybe just that will work. So you can see, yeah, you can see pretty much everything you need to see. Okay, so I guess there is a limit to how long my video can be in here. So, one of the things you could do to cheat if you wanted to, for starting out, is to take a piece of paper and if you have like a, what do you call it, painter's tape, you could put a piece of paper right on here and draw this out to start, see how it looks. And then build up from there. So you would do it again, but you wouldn't copy it. You would use that as a basis to figure out, okay, how are all the angles done on this? But to do this, and you can use a ruler for this, or you can freehand it. When I was in school, I was very much about freehanding everything. I thought using a ruler was cheating, but at least when I started. By the time I was at SUNY Fredonia, I was a little bit more relaxed about that. Because, I mean, at that point, I was in school for at least 4 years already. I started off as a digital media major. Well, first I was fine arts, and then I went to digital media, and then I said the hell with that and went back to fine arts. So, I wasted, I think it was only a semester in digital media. And I basically had migraines every day because we were staring at a computer all day for several hours. And then, you know, your website didn't work and your instructor couldn't tell you why it didn't work, but wouldn't give you, you know, a great grade even though he couldn't tell you what you did wrong. So I was just kind of turned off to the whole experience. And thus began my hatred of technology. Pretty much immediately. It probably didn't help that I think the very first web page I did, I had to do on Andrew Jackson, and he was a dick. So, probably shouldn't give a brown student Andrew fucking Jackson. Just a thought. Anyway, my full web page was a Depeche Mode fan site. Probably does not exist anymore. I wouldn't even know. I mean, this is back when we had like Angel Fire pages, which may honestly have been what that was. So like I said, I'd use this for a different project here, so there's still some remnants of things in the background for these first like 3 or 4 pages. And then after that, there's nothing. I mean, you can draw this box if you want to. I don't really care about the box, so I'm not going to. I probably should have had this in there before I... Yeah, I would say that this thumb needs to be longer. So, you know what? Okay, so every drawing you do should start off looking this simplistic. You know, it should be some anchor points, lines telling you where things should meet. All I'm doing is making this area worse. And that's what you should have before you go into any detail. Just very basic. So then from there, you're just going to kind of outline the shapes that you see here. Just very simplistic. Now, because the shadow does extend to the box, you may want to include it if you're like me and haven't. Just don't draw the whole thing, but okay, so at this point, excuse me, you can start to soften some of the lines that you have if you have very rigid lines. Which, I mean, is what they did here. They started drawing, instead of having a very straight finger, it actually now has some curvature to it. You also have the nail bed in there. What are you doing, troublemaker? Oh, he's laying on my fabric, of course. I got new fabric to do some sewing projects with, and I washed it as you're supposed to do that, but it didn't completely dry because I had it all kind of wadded up so that the ends wouldn't fray out. So now it's laying across my bed, and of course the cat is laying on it. And it will have some, not some, probably a ton of white cat hair on it now that it's all nice and clean. Anyway, my joys of cat ownership. So again, when you're trying to figure out which of the types of pencils do what, like what does the F mean, what does the H, the 4H, what does that look like? Make sure you push yourself to the limit as far as your value scale, which we don't have to worry about too much right now. But the easiest way, and to give you a little bit of head start, is think about how many different values you see. I mean, this is pretty simplistic. You see like super, super dark, kind of, I don't know, if we're saying that this darkest point is a 10, this part right here is probably an 8, and then the rest of it's white. So that's not, it's a 3-step value scale, whereas if you were going to learn a value scale, you'd probably learn like a 10, I would think. I think we may have even done 15 at N-Trip with our painting class. Okay, and I forgot to go do this, so I'm going to do this now. It's kind of concave right here. Convex. Concave. Hopefully I'm using these terms properly. So basically that's what your finished drawing will look like. You can use the side here to shade in like up here, and then for the part that's like black, and like I said, this is how you're really going to learn about the difference between the H and the F and the B, is how dark or light you can get it. Because you're not going to be able to get the same darknesses and lightnesses with each one, which is why there are so many. It's so that you can achieve different values, not just to be confusing as fuck. So, I'm not worried about this being too fancy, but, and then when you're done, you can compare, how does your finished drawing look to this finished drawing? I see that there's some issue in here where I may have made too much of a point. Something that's worth noting, and maybe that nail bed should come out a little bit more. Basically, the biggest difference I've seen from, I didn't do up in here. From basically going from being a studio, a student in the studio, learning from an instructor, to, going out on your own and trying to figure things out, is trying to figure out all the places and things you need to edit on your own. That is the hardest part. So the benefit of having an instructor for the amount of time that you do is that eventually what happens is you kind of become, I know this can be considered, what do you call it, like a negative mental health association, but that's not the point, and I think it will illustrate this for people who might have a hard time with this concept. Think about almost being schizophrenic and having the voice of your instructor in your head going, okay, this is what you should fix. And going through schooling is kind of getting that voice stuck in your head telling you what to fix all the time without, eventually without having somebody else to tell you what to fix. You can already look at it and say, well, if I showed this to my professor, she would say, fix this, 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 and this. So eventually what you want to start doing is being able to really see the difference in your piece versus this piece. And not being afraid to admit, this doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. I could improve here or there. And if you have a hard time, if you have someone around, just say, hey, Grandpa, what do you think? Does this look like this? Is there anything you can change? If you don't have anyone to ask, the best thing to do is always to look at it from a distance sometimes. Because you get so used to being like right up in your piece of work that whatever you're working on, that you forget to step back and look at it as a whole. And sometimes it clicks. You get far enough back, you're like, oh, okay, that does make sense. Now that I see it all together. It's very easy to get stuck in staring at it so close that you don't see it as a whole anymore. And you can keep going back in and trying to make this darker if you want to. But that's it for my second hand demo. I might do a portrait demo here in a second. Probably won't air it at the same time, but well, I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know what you think in the comments. If there's anything I should do differently, anything you want to see. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, save. I guess saving, even, I know at least on Instagram, if you save someone's post, then that gives them more of a logarithm boost thing, what have you. So it could be the same with YouTube, or if you save somebody's video to a playlist, it helps their algorithm. So keep that in mind. When supporting artists, it's not always about giving them money, although we definitely love that. Sometimes it's about sharing, commenting, doing whatever you can to help them. Alright, take care, guys. Zip it in and zip it out.